Burma came into being around 400 AD when the Pirus people formed the first Burmese kingdom along the Irrawaddy River. Over time, migrants from China and India also started to settle and spread out into various areas of what would become Burma when King Anuruddha united the country in 1044. The Irrawaddy River was extremely important for sustaining life. Monsoons brought the water levels up each year and caused the Irrawaddy to flood. These floods allowed the rice paddies to produce greater harvests and farmers to take care of other crops. Plentiful food supplies and consistent employment kept most Burmans happy and healthy for many generations. Burma was also blessed with many natural resources including oil, natural gas, and coal. These resources were in high demand around the world because they could fuel machinery and means of transportation developed during the Industrial Revolution. With news of such a productive country, the British started planning to take control of Burma. After attacks were exchanged between northern Burmans protected by the British and western Burmans who remained independent, the First Anglo-Burmese War began in 1824. This war was only the beginning of a 60-year period of struggle that involved two more Anglo-Burmese wars in 1852 and 1885.
The Burmese War began on March 5, 1824. The Arakanese want to reclaim their homeland in western Burma. The Burmese want to stop Arakanese raids, but the British stopped the Burmese because the British didn't want them to violate the Bengal border. The Burmese lost the war in February 1826 and had to cede many territories to Britain. The Second Anglo-Burmese War lasted from 1852 to 1853. Britain claimed that they were protecting its merchants from Burmese extortion, but more likely wanted an overland route from India to Singapore. The war ended without either the Burmese or British winning. The British occupied Lower Burma and annexed it to the empire. The Third Anglo-Burmese War lasted throughout 1885. Britain objected to Burma's going to France. The Burmese felt threatened by this relationship. Burma wanted to protect itself from further imperialistic actions. The Burmese were defeated and Britain annexed Burma on January 1, 1886.
By the end of the Third Anglo-Burmese War in 1885, the British had gained full control of every area of Burma. The Burmans had no choice but to accept the imposition of British rule. On January 1, 1886, Burma was officially declared a province of British India and under the jurisdiction of the Crown.
The British justified their imperialistic actions by calling them civilizing missions. They thought that it was their duty to bring education and Western culture to the Burmese and other colored people, or anyone else who was not a European.
The British immediately took over Burmese politics. There was a Burmese parliament, but all real power was held by the British. To keep peace, local men were appointed administrators of justice because they could understand the people on a personal level and did not need to be paid as much as a European. Burman and Indian soldiers also made up most of the military. By placing Burman soldiers on the front lines and an inefficient parliament for their political involvement, the British gave themselves even more power over the Burmans. Most people in Burma were uneducated and happy that way. They were not concerned that they were being exploited by the British. In turn, the British did their best to keep them ignorant and oppressed. Britain also directed the Burmese economy. Taking advantage of the plentiful natural resources, the British brought Burma into the international capitalist free market by investing in the rice harvests. As time went on, factories were built and farms diminished, increasing the need for work and the competition to be employed. With the need for work and food, most Burmans were focused on getting from one day to the next and did not realize they were entering the poverty cycle. Lack of food coupled with the lack of education kept Burmans oppressed and at the hands of the British. Since they were ignorant of what was going on with their government, they believed the British would be the best holders of power. Some Burmans actually received an education, either in Burma or Britain. A British education counted most in the eyes of the powerful. Being educated did not mean everything would be better. Skilled work was often given to Europeans, and Burmans were prevented from learning certain trades for fear Burma would become competition for Britain in the free market.
As a result, the Burmese started fighting back against oppression laid upon them by the British. The Burmese were tired of being excluded from the rewards coming from successful trades and industries, even though it was Burma who had prospered. The Burmese resistance movement of 1885 to 1895 began after the fall of Mandalay during the Third Anglo-Burmese War. Widespread resistance started to break out in Upper Burma, Lower Burma, the Shun, Kachin, and Chin Hills, and remained strong until 1896. Around the start of the 20th century, a nationalist movement called Young Men's Buddhist Associations, or YMBA, took form. The YMBA promoted Buddhism by challenging Christianity. The rejection of Christianity was by extent the rejection of British rule on religious grounds. The British occupation of Burma had a great and widespread impact on Burmese culture. The British imposed their ways of life and beliefs upon the Burmese in hopes of civilizing the native people. To change Burma was to change the people through religious ideas and education. For the youths in Burma, a new educational system was organized, and new schools were built. British Christian missionaries founded new Western-style schools that taught English, Burmese, and Christianity. The British brought in many cultural advancements through colonization. A sport called cricket was introduced. New genres of fiction were incorporated into writing. Eating utensils were also introduced.